In this week's episode, I'm joined by the founder of Hypha Studios, Camilla Cole. Camilla founded Hypha Studios in 2021, turning a pandemic-era idea into a charity that connects creatives with vacant spaces to regenerate high streets through cultural hubs and community-focused events. In this episode, Camilla explores the role of creativity in high street regeneration and the benefits for local communities. Camilla, thank you so much for joining us today. Fabulous to have you with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Can you tell us about the moment that sparked the idea for Hypha during the pandemic?
The moment that sparked it was when we could go for those daily walks for an hour a day. And I was wondering if you could just go past the shop and see something happening in there. I'm a bigger fan of sort of finding loopholes and sort of breaking the rules, but not quite. So I thought if one person was in there doing something, you could see it from the outside, and that would be amazing, and that would be a solution to this situation.
So it was something that was then, so that was the kind of start of it then, but then could you tell us what Hypha has evolved into and how it works now?
Yeah, so from that shop in Eastbourne that we started with, we did an open call, and we did that on Instagram. So I took pictures of the shop, promoted it through our channels, and basically it was a short application process that make people apply to partake in it. And the idea is that you have to be an artist, and in return for the free space, you have to do something for the local community. And I got 40 applications in four days.
Wow.
And this was in Eastbourne, and I grew up in Eastbourne. I didn't think there was any culture in Eastbourne, so I was like, wow, this really has legs. And so we did that, and we had the support of the Towner Art Gallery there. And I suddenly thought, right, we've got a lot of artists and we've got a lot of empty space. This is going to be a good opportunity for everybody. And obviously landlords benefit as well, which we can go into. For
sure. And so with that Eastbourne shop, so you had this idea, you walked past, you thought, what if people could actually see something happening in the shop? And so how did you then get that first space?
That was through a friend of a friend, and I was like, let's just give it a go. What are you going to do with this? This is going to be empty anyway. And obviously, as you know, landlords incur costs when shops are empty. So I said, let me just give it a go, and we did it. And the artist that we found was an artist called Molly Shredwick, and she was amazing, but she was painting in a caravan. And, and she came down from London just to stay with her parents during the pandemic, and then we found her this space, and off the back of that, she got collectors, and she had this quite a big network. So the impact from just using this empty space was quite tremendous. And off the back of this one little shop in Eastbourne, we've now worked in 64 different locations across the UK and given away £2.7 million worth of free space to artists, but saved landlords a heck of a lot more.
Wow.
And delivered about 2,000 events for the community for free and supported about 3,000 artists. So that the stats are impressive, and it's all based, from empty space.
Wow. So the UK high street has changed hugely, and we know that empty space is something that is somewhat of a blight. What role do you think that creative initiatives like Hypha Studios have in the ongoing regeneration?
Well, the one thing that you can't really do with art as much as people protest is that you can't really see it online. Everything else you can sort of do online. And I do think there should be an online tax for online shopping, because I think it's unfair to landlords, actually, that there isn't an online tax. It would really not help my business model, but I do think that should be addressed.
Yeah.
But so for what we do, coming together in communities, that is vital. You need a space for that. It used to be churches. It is pubs. Pubs are also closing, sadly. So we try and recreate a new sense of community in these spaces that you cannot recreate online. And that's really vital, I think, and that is our objective.
So that's the main purpose or the main role of those creative initiatives, is that kind of engaging the local community and creating that sense that sense of belonging, I guess.
Absolutely, a sense of belonging. So the artists that we select, we judge on 4 things, like where they live, what they do for the local community, their need, and how good they are. But usually they'll all live in the area, so they'll bring in their friends and their family. So the people that we put in these places represent the community. There are direct correlations. So an artist in Penrith might do landscape painting, which would be very nice for Cumbria. But an artist in London might do something about, the blockchain, and that will offer a different sort of audience and a different sort of event. So it's about unlocking these spaces for local use. Yeah.
I love that. So it's like hyper local then.
It's hyper local and it's hyper specific, and it's a real matchmaking process. We go through every application, and we've had many thousands, and it's really bespoke, and we can change the offer for the events, the demographics. We work with councils, we work with the mayor on Regent Street. We've got a former cinema in Camden with Camden Council. So the offer changes massively in every single shop or premises. So we say there's a creative solution for every empty space.
Wow. And do you ever have multiple empty spaces in the same town, the same location?
Yeah. Funny enough you say that. Yeah, we tend to get a bunch in one go. So actually soon we're about to launch, excitingly, 3 galleries in the City of London. And that is a very exciting opportunity opposite Bank Station.
Oh, wow.
It's huge. And we would program 3 galleries and their exhibitions. So the empty shops are galleries because they look great from the outside.
Yeah.
Office buildings will be spaces for people to make because it's behind closed doors. You don't want people looking at you. Railway arches could be for music because you're protected from, you can make as much noise as you like. So filming, you could have a big warehouse, so everybody needs a different sort of space, and we can do a call out specific to that.
So you've got so it's not just about galleries, it's about all kinds of different uses.
All the creative art forms, exactly that. So these 3 galleries will program, they'll be open and closed at the same time. So every time there's a new launch event, there'll be a huge party, so please come down. And we do this in lots of different locations because landlords typically have lots of properties.
Right.
And they might give us 2 or 3. And also, so we've been used for other purposes. In Sugar House Island in Newham, there was a complex where they've built loads of flats, but they had very few commercial occupiers. And so they've put us in there, and we've brought down hundreds of artists with thousands of people down to this area. And now they're suddenly getting occupiers. So we are very much a tool for landlords. I'm not scared of saying that. I love landlords. Some of them are amazing. And, what they are actually doing for the cultural community is enormous, by letting us use these spaces. I mean, they benefit in lots of ways, but there is a quid pro quo.
It's interesting you say that, because I think landlords, it's such an interesting topic when we're talking about high street regeneration and when we're talking about high street usage, because I've often felt that if you have a landlord who's got a vision, who's got a passion, then it has a real impact on the high street. It's not just about, we all need to shop local. Yes, of course, there's that, but there's also the vision of the landlord. So do you find that there are some who totally get it and other people that you have to really win round?
It's so funny, absolutely. So we have some people that are just like, save me money and I don't care what you do. That is good for me too, because it's freedom.
Yeah.
But actually the biggest and best landlords, they look at what we do and they don't see it as a money spinner, because it's not. We save them money, but we don't make the money. But we do make the money in the long run, because they get cool occupiers. They get a fresh scene of young, interesting people coming down. They know that maybe we'll go help them with a community infrastructure levy. Maybe we'll help them with planning permission, like we've done in Euston Tower or Get Living's site in East London. So there are wider benefits value-wise, but actually when you do it from the very beginning, before planning, it's even more exciting. So we do lots of data feedback, and we can tell developers and councils what people need on the ground, and that's really great, because then you don't just get developers swanning in and going, right, we think you need this. Actually, maybe the community needs a different sort of a community space, or the local demographic is X and they need this sort of So we try to translate those needs as well. We don't charge for that, by the way. We just do that because we want communities to be better.
Right. So you get engaged with the community, engaged with the landlord, you start putting the artists in and having the events, and then you start to get a sense and a feel for what the community needs.
Correct, exactly. And we feed back. So we say, look, we've delivered X amount in this area. The social value is worth X. And, you can do with that as you wish. But we hope that, and they do, we're coming to a nice time in society where it's not just about as much money as you can make immediately. People are taking a longer view, and I think landlords like British Land, who are amazing, the Crown Estate, who are amazing, and these other landlords, they're really sort of looking at the mixed offer, not one that is just about another coffee shop, because you'll lose your other occupiers. Down in Euston where we work, Facebook broke their lease on one of their other properties. Now that's a heavy loss, But they're doing that because if you've got workers coming into work, where are they going to go at lunchtime? Why would you go to that area?
Right.
You can have an amazing building, but if there's nothing to do at lunchtime or after work, why would you bother? So that's why we're moving into the City of London, and we're moving into these really exciting places. It's like the 80s or 90s, but even better in a way.
And I think that's such a good point, and it helps everybody, right? Because nobody wants to go to a row of shops where there are lots and lots of vacancies. If you've got vibrant, interesting things happening, it helps everybody, right? It's that cumulative effect.
Absolutely, and don't forget the sort of like incubating, people's ideas and innovation. If you constantly have to think about the money you're going to spend on rent, you're not actually going to take risks, and risks are what create the best businesses, and that's what creates the best art as well. So I think free space, when it's given to the right people, can be incredibly beneficial to not just the local economy, but to the national economy.
And so do you find that for like you said, for some people, they get the cultural value. They say, right, I understand the importance of art, the importance of having artists in the empty spaces. And for some people, it's more of an economic thing, save me money.
True, but there's the other one is also very lucrative. So I think there's a report done, and it said that wherever artists go, property values rise by 5%.
Right.
It's true. If you follow artists, they create amazing places to live. Now, a lot of artists will be upset that I said that, but it's true. They know how to make things beautiful, and then people follow suit. So I think instead of just using them for that purpose, we should be giving them a financial incentive. Like ideally in the future, I'd like to pay artists to be in these spaces because they do bring the value and of the sense of community and place massively up. We're just not giving them the money to do it, and we're not even allowing them to do it currently. We should let it be more available. And
yeah, no, that's such an interesting, I'm just thinking about, I'm based in southeast London, and we have an artist community, Havelock Walk in Forest Hill, and I totally get that. It's a very beautiful space, and I love that artists make places beautiful, and that drives up the property prices. And so it's just interesting. I'm sure that when you're having all of these negotiations, because you work with a lot of different landlords, a lot of different properties, you almost when you go in, you kind of got to work out what's the pitch, what's the angle that's going to get the light bulb to go on people's heads.
It's so funny you asked that. It took me about 2 years to figure out that's what I had to do, because we've got so many win-wins, and I don't want to sit there and chew people's ear off. So I have to say, I was like, what do you need? And then I can angle the pitch. It's what do you need? Is it planning permission? Is it save money immediately? Is it ESG? Is it to create a community? And then I can give you the main pitch and give you all the benefits afterwards. But tell me what you actually want. And everybody has a unique need, and we can create a unique response to that.
And presumably some of them have to get it signed off by somebody as well. So they're going to say, oh, well, if I want to get this signed off, because you're not always presumably meeting with the final decision maker.
You struck upon a really interesting point. Whether you're in a council or a landlord, it's changing slightly now, because what we do is straddles culture, regeneration, rates, asset management. There's usually not one person to speak to, and actually they should all work together. Like big companies like CBRE, I was speaking to them before, and it's like, if only you put together your ESG department with your rates department, with the regeneration department, we could be sat on a huge win. And by the way, this model doesn't work just for art. This could work for all charitable organisations. So this could also work for sports. And imagine what we could do in this country at this time when we really need to, with just free space.
Yeah.
So it's not, I think it's a good way forward for that.
Big thanks to EDF's small business team for sponsoring this podcast. Powering the High Street, a bold new initiative from Enterprise Nation and EDF, has been designed to breathe life into the UK's high streets by supporting the next generation of retail entrepreneurs. Whether you're a seasoned shopkeeper or a digital business ready to make the leap to bricks and mortar, Powering the High Street is your gateway to making a meaningful retail impact. Explore the resources and get involved by visiting the hub now. Find more details at enterprisenation.com/poweringthehighstreet. So you have to kind of meet with the separate teams and almost for the regeneration people, they want to know about footfall, and for ESG, they want to know about the cultural impact. And you almost tailor your pitch to each one to kind of get that, right, what does it take to get a yes?
Yeah, and often what happens is I'll speak to one of them and then nothing will happen. And then a year later, someone will be like, oh, I was in that meeting and actually we need this. Can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we do. Yeah.
So in exchange for free space, as you mentioned, the artists are delivering these events, workshops, exhibitions, all these types of things. How do you think that is helping people maybe reimagine or reperceive what a retail space can be used for?
So, yeah, again, really interesting. So if we just take a pure retail premises, like a former cafe, the reason why it's good for artists, obviously, is that they learn. University doesn't teach you how to put on shows or manage a space.
Right.
And lots of galleries are closing. So actually, you know, where you might make your money is sort of becoming more and more difficult. So them learning how to do this is incredibly valuable. They might go on and rent another shop somewhere and do the same thing for themselves. So, you know, you sort of give them the taste for it and the know-how, and then they do it themselves. In terms of customers coming in, 90% of our spaces, and this is the sort of, we're the victims of our own success, 90% of our spaces get tenanted afterwards or get planning permission.
Right.
And that is purely because, and it's really annoying, but it's also brilliant for landlords, when you see a space being used, obviously it's kept in a better condition, you can see that it's buzzing and thriving, and you want what other people have. You know, if it's just a dead space that's like going, you know, sort of rotting away, and it does rot away, space does rot away if it's not used. That's one of the reasons why I think so many people take our spaces from us. And that's fine. That's sort of why we're here. We're here to sort of pop in and pop out. I like popping up in different locations.
Yeah. So it's helping them reperceive that empty space as an opportunity, see it as an opportunity.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, and even if it is a temporary thing, like, you know, that happens all the time. We're actually working with the Bid in Marble Arch who wanted to do a temporary pop-up event. And I was like, sure, you know, but they found it very difficult to get another opportunity in other properties because, you know, they have their own setup. So yeah, but then, you know, we've taken over like massive former supermarkets, like a huge 15,000 square foot Asda in Wrexham.
Oh, wow.
And that was huge and it was amazing. And, you know, the team from that Disney show came down and filmed it. And we had a big supermarket that was like 9,000 square foot and they did filming in the fridges at the back. So you can really reconceptualize the way that a space is.
So what's the split then between the kind of public-facing events and the kind of behind-the-scenes making spaces?
So it's funny. So Hypha Studios is a bit of a misnomer. My background is in curating. So I set this up because I couldn't afford to rent a space for a week in London, even though I've managed private art collections and bought and sold artwork for the most amazing people in galleries across, you know, London. So, you know, £1,000 for one space is really expensive. So I set it up for that purpose. Sorry, what was the question? So
how does it split? How much of your space is for people who are making and how much of your space is for people who are public-facing events and exhibitions?
Sure. So like I'd say 70% is exhibitions, and that's because that's my forte. And it's also because it's like placemaking on a shoestring. You know, some people, there are agents that do what we do, but they'll charge the landlord £500,000, whereas I might save a landlord £500,000. So that's really what we're looking at, and I can give you like results as to what we've delivered, whereas somebody else might not be able to do that.
Yes, and I think that's what's so powerful about this is that it is a win-win situation. It's win-win-win. It's a win for the landlord, win for the artist, win for the community, and you're able to demonstrate that. So it's not. Oh, I love it when it's an idea that does good, but then also you can prove that it actually helps them, you know, with real cold hard numbers.
Agreed, and that's, I think, it's testament to the fact that we work directly with councils. You know, and I think councils also struggle to get their hands on these empty properties. They hate it when there's an empty property.
Yeah.
So I can bridge a conversation between a private landlord and a council, and like I love that more than anything because usually they're sort of in opposition. You know, a landlord gets nervous when a council is going, "What are you doing with your space?" And vice versa. And you know, so actually, if you say, "Look, well, we're going to do this now, but we're thinking of doing this later," and then you can spark up ideas. You know, that I love doing that, bringing the private and like public sector.
Do you ever encounter private landlords that just aren't willing to engage?
Oh my God, yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Oh my God, all the time. What was it? So you kiss a lot of toads. Yeah, it's like 90% of my conversations at the start didn't come off.
Yeah.
And that's because I think I'm female, I'm curator, and I'm just going, let me have your property. I'll just give it to artists for free. It's, you know, it's quite a hard sell actually, because I can't either tell you what's going to go in.
Right.
But we've got so many case studies now, and we work with the biggest landlords in the country. And now properties are coming to me that are mind-blowing. Like we're looking at this site in South London that's 20,000 square feet. It will be the best, in my opinion, one of the best galleries in London. And it will be a place of real innovation. And that will also be helping landlords, but it will also help thousands of artists. So that's exciting for me.
When you've got a bigger space like that, because you talked about, I can totally see how if you've got like a single unit where people, you put a gallery in there, there's a buzz, people get excited, then somebody else leases that space. But when it's like a really big a big area space, like you were talking about the Wrexham supermarket or a 20,000 square foot in South London. Does that still happen, that somebody goes, oh, I think I know what I could do with this giant space? Or are those spaces ironically easier to hold on to?
Yeah, so that's so interesting. The big boy, the Wrexham one actually did get taken up by JD Sports. So
right.
That did get taken away from us. But we've had like a 25,000 square foot office block in Chatham. And every time I think my model's just about to not work, it works. And I go there and visit it, and we've got like 5 amazing groups in there doing VR and theatre and all sorts of stuff. And in Ashford, the same thing, a big office block. The mayor came along, loves it. And I'm hoping those will stick around for a while, but I really do think that our model means that people will come along and swoop in, even though there's plenty of other properties around.
They want what they've... they want what somebody else has got.
Exactly that.
So how do you feel it helps the artists? Does it help them push their creative boundaries, or maybe test ideas that they wouldn't normally get a chance to play around with? So
in London, we have a major problem. Rents are expensive, as we know, particularly for the people in the creative industries, and which is what the second biggest income bringer in the UK. The creative industry is huge and very important. But yet we're talking about dismantling the Arts Council, yet we defund universities, yet we don't seem to care about artists whatsoever. We don't want to pay them for their work. And so, I think if someone's renting a space in London and suddenly they can't afford to live there, they'll leave. They all go to the South Coast. They go to Margate, Hastings, and I think myself and a few other organisations, well, in fact, all artist studios, we do free space, but other ones do very affordable space. It's fundamental to keep artists in a city, because let's be honest, what do people come to London for? People come to London for tourism. Usually that's to go to the theatre. Yeah. Or go to galleries, or go to these are the fun things to do. And without artists, this won't happen. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important for them. And, if you don't have to spend £1,000 a month on a studio, that can go towards materials, that can go towards, whatever else. Plus, we're a network. So we have 2 full-time members of staff. But underneath our sort of umbrella, our partners in all of our spaces, we have about 800 artists. So these artists don't work in isolation. They are all part of our network. And we're going to start selling work too to fund the charity. So, it should be beneficial in many ways for them.
You give them a platform.
A platform, visibility, a platform helps them financially. Exactly that.
And it was interesting what you were saying about how art school or an art degree doesn't get you ready to put on a show. So I'm guessing that also really helps them as well, and maybe helps them push what they want their exhibition to be, what they want
so art school, this is a generalisation, but majority of the time they're there to sort of bring out the creativity in you, and you're focusing on technique or concepts or ideas. You're not focusing on the logistics of running a space. You're not being told what to do and how to get a space. And now quite a common practice is groups of artists to come together, collectives, and they all sort of take on roles that you would do in a business. So one might be good at press, one might be good at whatever, so you see what I mean. And that is, I think, quite an exciting new model of work. It's sort of like a cooperative. And we see a lot of it at Hypha. And it's a really good way to get ahead.
Yes, and then you're giving them that space to either work or to put on a show.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So do you feel like there's an opportunity to expand beyond the UK? I know there's a lot. It sounds like there's so much more potential in the UK itself. But what about beyond the UK, global?
Yeah. I need to take a day off, but I can't see it. I feel like an obligation to do what we're doing. So obviously England is one thing, but we've just got charitable status in Scotland. As I said, we work in Wales. But I do think the business model would also work in America. And we might be starting to work with a very exciting American institution in London. And I'd like to go to America. And also I think Australia has a similar sort of model. So I haven't done enough research into it, but absolutely, because then you could do cultural exchanges. And that is very exciting for me. Yeah. And then you'll get really good globalized cultural exchange.
Yes. And the US, retail space, it's something like US has 5 times the retail square footage per capita that the UK has, because they have all those huge, great big format stores. So I'm sure they've got a lot of empty space.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with Los Angeles, there's a lot of empty space, and it's expensive to leave empty. I would hope to go there first, probably LA.
And so what advice would you give if anyone's listening to this and they have an interest in culture and bringing culture to the high street, or the interaction between retail spaces and cultural spaces. What advice would you give to somebody who also wanted to be involved in rethinking how the two can coexist?
Interesting. Well, I mean, I think talk to us, we can help. But also talk to your local council. They might have assets that like they want to start activating. You know, how we do obviously help broker those sort of arrangements, but that is one thing I would definitely do. When I first started this, I used to go around with like bits of papers like, underneath the door frame saying, contact me, contact me. And that does not work, unsurprisingly enough. Like, I did that for about a year, wasted a lot of money on paper. That doesn't work. Landlords have to want to come to you. So you have to do a case study. So maybe you have to front up the cash, do it, and then make people come back. But there's lots of sort of interesting models coming out doing similar sorts of things, but mainly for retail. I find a lot of the times that landlords really want retail, and we aren't that.
So there's a possibility if you've got an idea for retail, then you might be pushing on an open door. Yeah,
if you've got an idea for retail, I think most landlords would be up for trying something, particularly if you make it flexible and worth their while. You know, I think the reason why we've had success is because we understand the landlord's needs. And I think it'd be, you know, I always tell people, what are you going to give them? You know, you just don't think about, oh, well, I want to do this in your space. That doesn't work.
Yes.
Like, you have to have a bespoke solution for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I've often thought as well, there's a lot of opportunities if somebody has a strong online presence. You know, you think about the number of people who started online businesses, and then if you've got a big following and you're actually going to be a draw to bring people to an area, then I think that's appealing.
That's very interesting you say that. So, you know, Westminster Council came up with that strategy, basically. They were like trying to get... you know, they were offering free space for 6 months to certain businesses, and I think it's worked. But the idea is to get these online platforms and pull them into shops. But you know, like I said, the reason why we do exhibitions is because it's actually very easy to manage a space for 6 weeks. Managing a space full time is actually incredibly expensive, and if you are an online business, it's going to have to be a lot to tempt you to come offline. And I do think we should really start thinking about that in a serious way. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's such a great opportunity, or a bit more flexibility around, you have space to fulfill your online orders from a... Correct. And, you know, so one of the things I was talking to, in fact, our Lord about, was having something called the, like a venue. Like, it's almost like an archaic idea for a retail shop where like a carpenter would make something in the shop that you could buy directly from them, so you cut out the online distribution thing, but also you learn sort of how to do it through events and workshops. So you almost go back to medieval times. You completely cut out anything to do with online, and you can only do this in the space. Right. You know, for physical interaction. Yes. You know, like no digital. Only in person. Only in person. But I think people want that. Yeah. You know, people really want. That's why like little bougie streets do so well. You want to meet the makers. You know? Yes. And people, I think the more that there's always that pendulum swing, isn't it? The more we swing towards digital, AI, etc., the more people crave the human. Absolutely. And people pay a premium for that. Like a massive premium for that. I agree. And how do you find now that you've got so many artists, and you must get approached a lot by artists, people who want to do an event as part of Hypha. Do you find that you still have to do the open calls because it's so specific to locations, or do you just have like a whole roster now ready to go? Such a good question. So if we're working in a place like Hackney, like where we are now, we do an open call, and then we fill the space, and then we go back to the shortlist and say, if you want to stay, you know, if you want a space in the future, let us know. And then that means that we don't have to do another open call. But actually, artistic ideas need to be freshened up. And so, you know, if we come back a year later and we've got another space in Hackney, we probably need to do another open call anyway, just to see what, you know, because the art world changes, themes and concepts change. Yes. And like, you know, what's relevant 6 months ago is not relevant now. Right. And do you ask the artists to say not only, yes, I'd like to do this, but this is exactly what I do in the space? So you're asking them to pitch it? Yeah, so they have to write us a proposal and what community groups they'd bring in, and like what artists they're going to be working with. And we say yes or no. And then there's like a whole checklist, like, you know, what artworks are going to be up. We can't have anything that's problematic. problematic for anybody.
Right.
So it is very, it's all vetted.
Yes.
And there can be some variation as long as, there's nothing in there that is problematic for anybody.
Yeah.
And the variation is, acceptable, because sometimes we'll allocate somebody a space, but they might not do the show for 6-7 months. So things change.
Yes.
So you have to have a degree of flexibility.
Well, fantastic. It was an absolutely fascinating conversation and really interesting concept. And I think it's incredible what you've done in such a short space of time, and the impact that you've had, the number of, I mean, I can only imagine how much work goes into so many different spaces, so many different events. So I'd love to just wrap up by saying, what's next?
What's next? So this October, we're going to be launching our sales platform. So we're getting expressions of interest now from artists, and that will be a big deal. And we're going to get like art world professionals and like famous people, I guess, to select the artists. And the idea is to bring people out that haven't been seen before. And we've got that 20,000 square foot gallery opening in January, and those 3 other galleries in City opening in October.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching the Small Business Retail Sessions podcast, brought to you by Enterprise Nations Powering the High Street Hub, in collaboration with EDF Small Business. To learn more about the work EDF are doing to energise small businesses and how they can help you on your journey, head to enterprisenation.com/powering the high street. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.